I'll admit that there is no immediate way to determine a face shape, and one face can fall into a combination of shape categories. Also, the loss and gain of weight on our face changes our immediate perception of it, making the categorizing altogether too confusing. While it is important to recognize what works for each face shape, making it the bane of one's creative existence isn't going to be much fun at all. So let's leave everything that we think we might know for a minute and not take it all too seriously. Categorizing face shapes under oval, round, square, heart, or diamond, or any other, are just general guidelines to recognizing which parts of our faces are widest, narrowest, or longest, therefore bringing to our notice and understanding which makeup styles work for us and how they may be applied to flatter the said face shape. Always remember that no matter what face shape, beautiful makeup can be applied in the most flattering manner to each of them. But to get there, here are a few pointers in recognizing face shapes. They are simple guidelines that will help you as you progress in your makeup education. Let's talk about what happens when each of us looks into the mirror. Almost all of us instantly think, I wish my forehead was just a little narrower. Or why does my chin have to be so pointy? Or even perhaps, I would look so much softer if my jawline was just a little less angular. These are not only the little niggling uncertainties for a makeup artist and any other individual, they are also clear indications that those particular aspects of the face need to be brought into balance with the rest of the face, using subtle and incredibly effective contouring and highlighting methods that we will visit in future videos. Back to the face shapes. As a makeup artist, first take a good look at your own face and understand how you may mentally apply the shape recognition trick to a client before you proceed with the makeup. With practice, it will become second nature to recognize key aspects of face shapes that you will be presented with and work with accordingly. Also, as you become familiar with the customer, he or she will mention to you what he or she would like balanced in their own faces. Until then, gear up and pay close attention to your customer's face. A few key things to recognize will help you understand face shapes much better. To keep it really simple, pull your hair back and away from your forehead and face. Take a mug shot looking straight into your phone camera. Avoid smiling so you don't distort your cheeks. Take a printout of the picture and draw dots on the center of your hairline, the widest parts of your forehead, that's temple to temple, the widest parts of your cheeks at the cheekbones near the ears, and the widest part of the jawline and the tip of the chin. Now, join the dots with a felt pen. You will have at least an indication of your own face shape. Moving on, I'm going to simply describe to you how you may be able to look at a customer and categorize them into a face shape. When you look at a customer's face, first ask yourself, if your answer is forehead, then the individual is most likely to be an oval or heart shape. If your answer is at the cheekbones, chances are that the individual is a round shape or a diamond. If your answer is the jawline, then the individual is likely to be a square, rectangle, or a triangle shape. If the answer is pointy or tapered, it is likely that the individual is a heart shape or an oval shape. Is it a round jaw? Then she or he is a round shape. If the answer is square, then he or she is a square, triangle, or a rectangular shape. What does it look like to you? If the answer is short, all signs point to a round shape. Round-shaped faces are almost equal in length and width. If the answer is long, well then it's probably an oval, oblong, or a rectangular shape. In these shapes, the face is almost always a little or definitely longer than the width of the face. What will immediately jump out at you when you inspect a face that you're about to do makeup on is the very obvious lengths and widths. You will know with practice that these glaring aspects are the ones that you must tackle to balance a face in makeup. Here are a few pointers on what to expect when you have to work with each of these commonly known face shapes. But first, do please understand that despite these general guidelines, an individual may or may not want some of the common methods of correction or balancing. He or she may not even fit entirely into one specific category. Use this information only as guidelines and not rules that are set in stone. Always remember to be creative and yet mindful of the person sitting in your chair. Oval face shapes are normally longer than they are wide, having rounded edges, but there is a gentle taper towards the chin. Well, not to flatter myself or anything, but a face like Beyonce's is an oval shape. An oblong face, like an oval shape, the oblong shape also is longer than it is wider, but the forehead, cheekbones, and the jawline are about the same width. The forehead is high and rounded, and the length of the face from hairline to chin is longer. Think Sarah Jessica Parker or Liz Tyler? Well, I guess I am certainly nothing like the second face shape, so I'll take number 1, the oval. Why does knowing this piece of information help me? An oval shaped face is largely balanced, but the length of the face may be a little longer than the width. This is the one aspect that a makeup artist may have to balance using contouring and highlighting techniques. Even so, it is considered an ideal face shape as most makeup looks work really well on this shape. An oblong face is visibly longer than wider. The distance between the tip of the chin and the mouth is normally greater, and the forehead also tends to be really high. Using contouring techniques to cut back the length work wonders for this face shape. As you can see, our model here has an oblong face, mainly because you'll notice curved edges all over, and there's a certain length to her face, and if you notice the distance between the bottom of her lip and chin, it's a greater distance than there is normally on a face, and also there's a higher rising forehead. In all, the width of her forehead, her cheekbones and her jaw are almost the same, but tapering more into a round shape both on top and the bottom, and very clearly the length of her face is greater than the width of her face. So while being quite close to an oval, there's not that much of a taper here. So basically if you join the dots as we previously discussed, you'll notice that hers is an oblong face shape. A round face shape normally has a cherubic quality because the face tends to be short and equal in length and width. One must be careful not to create very harsh angles on such a face as it is naturally rounded. Clever contouring may be placed in a manner that flatters this face shape. Also, because the face is short, too many sloping contours may disturb its balance. Straight contours work so much better. As you can see in our model's case, she's a pretty round face, it's quite evident. There's a gentle slope here, it's not an angled forehead or an angular jaw either, both are rounded. And the distance between the middle of her hairline to the chin and the distance between cheek to cheek are almost similar. Now that's typically what a round face looks like. The width and the length of the face are almost exactly the same. And there are very gentle slopes, so everything's rounded. As you can see, the jawline is pretty rounded and so is the forehead. That is exactly how a round face is described. So on a face like this, which is rounded, you should avoid applying very sharp contours like that. Very sloping and sharp contours can divide the face in a manner that's not very flattering to this face shape. Ideally, contouring placed slightly straighter would divide the face into more equal proportions and give it a balanced effect. In a square-shaped face, the width of the forehead, cheekbones and the jawline are almost the same, and the jawline angles straight towards the chin. Contouring the angular edges in a rounded manner can bring softness to this face shape. One must be careful not to place very harsh contours on this face shape. A rectangular face shape is similar, only longer, so one could cut back the length with contouring. Our model here has a square-shaped face. You can tell it quite easily. First, because she has a very angular jaw. If you can see that it's broad and angular. And the main thing to look for in a square-shaped face is the fact that the temples, the cheekbone and the jawline, the back of the jawline are almost in a straight line. They're the same width throughout. And also the jawline itself is very, very angular. Of course, like I mentioned earlier in the video in the introduction, if there is a weight gain or loss, chances are the face shape may be slightly difficult to distinguish. But having said that, these are the classic ways in which you can distinguish a square-shaped face. Having said that, there's several ways in which you can soften the effects of this jaw. Not to say that it's unattractive in any manner, but if the desire is there to soften the lines of the jaw, You need to use a contouring powder and not go along the jawline, because that will make the jawline come through as stronger, squarer. All you need to do is soften it off. So normally you apply the bronzers or mattifying bronzers or any contouring powders in a more rounded fashion, so you get the effect of roundness or softness on the face. Another thing to do is you can also apply sloping angles as contours on the cheekbones. That will also give the sense of a tapering jawline. This face shape has so many flattering looks that look great on this face shape, so you don't have to necessarily correct it in every event. But having said that, to bring a balance, you can think of ways in which you can soften the edges off. A heart-shaped face tends to be wide on the forehead and the cheekbones, but slope quite sharply towards the chin. Well, in some cases, the chin is fairly pointy too. In such a case, it will work if the contours were placed on the edges of both the forehead and the cheekbones while not contouring the chin at all. All this might seem too intimidating in the beginning, but really it isn't as difficult as it seems. Well, our model here is exactly a heart shape. It's as close to a heart shape as one can get, and it's pretty evident. So heart-shaped faces are very predominantly shaped. They have the same width at the temples and the cheekbones, as you can see in her case. This is a classic. And then it tapers down to a pointed chin. In her case, also she has a widow's peak, which is actually one of the clearest signs that one person has a heart-shaped face. So as you can see on our model, there's a perfect widow's peak that rises and goes into the same width at the temples and the cheekbones and tapers into a point at the chin. And we can't get more typically heart-shaped than this face. It's a beautiful face for makeup. One should just be very careful not to apply very sharp contours, because then there'll be a very sudden taper from the cheekbones downwards and make the face look disproportionate. Soft contours would work really well. But having said that, one could even press down at the temples using contouring products, so there's more of a softness to that shape and the width doesn't come across very strongly. Well, otherwise, of course, for heart-shaped faces are beautiful and they have a certain soft appeal about them. When you are just beginning as a makeup artist, do not be shy to ask your client or customer what parts of their face shape that they would like to enhance or subdue. It's always helpful to open up a conversation, and it will also help you to see something that you may not have noticed before. Once you watch and learn, you will soon develop a practiced eye and know some of the things that I mentioned here very instinctively and without any confusion. But to begin, don't forget to join the dots. It's a very useful and helpful exercise.